Alright, so today is January the 31st, 2020, and as I told you in the last video, we're going to be upgrading the fuel injectors on this R53 Mini Cooper S. I already explained to you my situation of why we're doing that, so this video is just going to dive straight into disassembly, removal, and replacement. Okay, so the first thing you want to do, you want to go ahead and grab yourself a T30 Torx bit. That'll remove all of these fasteners here that are holding the intercooler, which we have to remove. So let's go ahead and start doing that here. I'm just going to use impact on the lowest setting just to speed up this process. So I'll start by removing the cover for the intercooler here. Okay, so we'll set that aside. The next thing you want to do is you want to start by loosening all of these clamps that connect the intercooler to the supercharger inlet and outlet, and you want to go ahead and after that use, I think, a size 8mm to remove the bolts holding the bracket that holds the intercooler down. So let's go and do that next. Set that aside. Before you even start removing these injectors, you want to blast the entire thing with compressed air, so that way you can blow off all of the debris and dust, because the last thing you'd want to do is remove this thing, and once you have it exposed, you're going to have debris fall inside of your cylinders, and then when you put everything back together, you fire up your car, it's going to cause damage to the cylinder walls and to the valve seats. So you don't want to get any debris going into the motor. Let's go and blow all that out. Before we do that, you want to plug both ends here with some kind of a cloth or tissue. So let me go grab that from the trunk. These damn things up here, that's like that, so we don't get anything going inside of the intake here. Alright. I'm just using this cheapo can that I got from my computer. It works the same way. And let's start blasting the handle. Now, some people may argue, well, you better disconnect your battery, you don't want to short anything out. But if you think about it, the car's not even running. Okay? That means there's no electricity being supplied to these injectors at the moment. And even if one of these wires were live, the only way you'd short out the computer is if you actually were to bridge the two connections, or short one of the connections to the body or something. Which you can't, really. I mean, they're insulated within these connectors as long as you're not sticking any probes in there. I don't think you're going to short out the computer, so we don't have to worry about disconnecting the battery. Let's go ahead and get these connectors off of here. You simply just push the connector. I want to go ahead and zoom in here so you guys can see what am I doing. So let's try and do that. Go ahead and start by pushing this in and simply just removing it here. So like that. Same thing, you just push it in here and simply remove it like that. Do the same thing for all of these here. This last one's going to be kind of hard to get to, especially I'm holding this tripod. Let's see here. Oh, let me zoom in here really quick. This is very important. Like I was telling you with the last video. As you can see here, space is very limited. Like I told you, between this connector you have this fuel supply line here, and you might have half an inch of, yeah, I think you have about half an inch of clearance here. So if you were to use those other injectors I told you about from that Pontiac Bonneville, you could be able to space out this fuel rail half an inch here too. This is important here. I think you have about half an inch here. I'm not going to do any measurements because I'm not doing that injector, but I'm just telling you based on visual here what I see. I think you have about half an inch you can play with. So those longer injectors can be used if you use a half an inch spacer. And the spacer you're going to be putting in over here with these underneath the bracket where it mounts onto the cylinder head. That's where you're going to put your half-inch spacer, and there's two locations here. So you know, you can get some sheet metal or some aluminum and fabricate something there. Okay, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to remove this entire rubber coupler here so I can get more access to the last injector. In fact, just gonna undo this vacuum line to relieve some tension on here. Of course, it's gonna spray all over the place, so we better put something around it. Fuel pressure is relieved. I'm just going to remove the fuel line just to make life easier for everybody. We'll set that aside over here. So I'm just going to remove this wiring harness to make life easier here. I'm just prying underneath the base of the fuel injector so I can get it to come out easier. It's being a real pain right now. Oh good, we didn't damage the vacuum hose that goes to the fuel regulator. That's very good. Okay. Now the next thing you want to do is start removing these clips that go on the rear of each injector, so we'll do that now. I'll just simply use my flathead to do that. And next thing you want to do is start removing each one of these injectors. But before I do that, I want to disconnect this vacuum line because I'm kind of worried about damaging that. There's one. And you can see these are the original fuel injectors. The Deca units, the 330 cc's I showed you in the last video. Now note the orientation of the connector. You want to put the new injectors with the connector facing the same way. There you go. Jesus Christ. Now you want to start by making sure that all of the O-rings are removed. There's some inside of here. I'm going to put the camera in a little bit more so you can see. There, so there's one there you can see, and there's another one in here. So we'll just use like a little pick or something, you know, to kind of yank those out of there. Alright, so there those are there. Okay. So what we're going to use is a vacuum to vacuum the debris. I'm going to use this brass brush to kind of help agitate some of the debris off of there. That way we prevent anything from falling inside the cylinder. I'm going to go one step further. I'm going to use me a little Q-tip here. Like that, we can go inside and clean even more. And so for that, I'll just grab some of this gasoline from the fuel rail and start by cleaning off the sides here. You can see that one here. Okay, that's trash. Go with the next one. Let's go and get that there. Look at that. And the main reason why you're cleaning this too is so when you put the new injectors you don't damage the O-rings with debris. So that's another reason why you want to clean up these holes very good here before you put anything in there. Okay, that should be good enough there.